I think we're all sort of craving honesty and authenticity. It's like, come on, man, I need somebody to tell me honestly, hey, Matt, you need to step up here.
Now, it's amazing how like the layers come off in your growth and you don't even see something, right? And then all of a sudden something pops up and you go, oh, wait a minute. I got a blind spot.
I love it. I love the feeling of being around guys, seeing them go through and do the work and come out the other side. I know that my heart grows when I come to something like this. And those guys walked in here and they needed love.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the TPM Show. And today is a special version of the show. I have two amazing men with me right here. I have Chris and Matt. And these guys are top notch. They are not only in the Brotherhood, which is our flagship program. It's a one-year mastermind group. But these guys just volunteered their time to work and help us out at an Alpha Reset, bringing 10 amazing other men across the line, take them from a place of just pain and being lost to a place of feeling love and joy in their life. Guys, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Doug. It was a real pleasure. A true honor to be here and help these guys along their journey.
You guys did. I mean, the reality is, and I know I've said this before, but you guys are role models of what's possible for men. And you guys are what I call you're natural guys. Like it's not like you've gone to some Buddhist monastery or what have you. Which I hate.
How do you know?
Yeah.
Last month, right?
Well, some of the men's work that's out there, and we were hiring coaches. We had over 400 applicants in a week come in for the Powerful Man.
Wow.
And which is amazing. A lot of people have heard of the work that we do. And when you talk to some of them, you're talking like, so after a process, do you download with the client? I'm like, it's just this lingo that does, I get it and I understand what they're saying, but I think that lingo to me is off-putting to a lot of people who are just like, hey, I'm just a little stuck in this area. I need a little help. And you guys exemplify what it means to me to be a strong man who has an open heart, a wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce. You're business guys, you're family guys, and you're fun.
Doug, you bringing up wise, open, loving, and fierce. Chris and I have been having some great conversations about fierce lately, right? That seemed to be for both of us the one that we really had to kind of dive into a little bit better. That was really fun to do.
Now, it's amazing how like the layers come off in your growth and you don't even see something, right? And then all of a sudden something pops up and you go, oh, wait a minute. I got a blind spot here. And that was one avenue for both of us. And we saw it at a side event at another brother's ranch, who I'm going to sidebar here for a second. Gavin, we love you. God, we wish you were here. Gavin's kind of the third of our real close posse here, right?
Yeah,
And but we were at an event at his ranch, and it was something that came up, and it was really cool for us to go through through that together, because I could look at him and go, he's like, yeah, they're kind of right. Like I can't feel that in you. And it's really cool.
Well, what's cool is you have that brotherhood, so to speak, where you have men that you can lean on who care about you. They give a darn, no skin in the game per se, right? It's not like a business transaction where they're getting something or trying to manipulate you. It's just guys that help you see your blind spots. They do it with love, but also firmness, right? There's accountability here. Like if you don't step up, I'm calling you out. If you said you want to do the thing, you're not doing the thing, I'm telling you.
That's there's a lot of real magic here, but that's the real magic. And that's where the open part comes in, because you're safe with these guys. Mm-hmm. You've admitted, hey, I'm struggling. So let me do something about it. So that's like a common denominator. So you feel safe to start talking about it. So you'll be open and you'll have your challenges and you bring it up to guys. And, if you're being rough on yourself, they'll tell you, and they'll hold space for you and help you out in that arena. But on the flip side, if you're not stepping to the line, they'll call you forward. I mean, Gavin has called me forward a number of times, and so has Matt. And I think we've done that for each other. And then help you, though, not call you out and say, dude, you need to do this and like check out, right?
Yep.
Hey, man, I think you're smelling the barn here and you need to step forward and do this. I've got some experience here. Let me help you get through this. That's awesome.
It is, because it's not pointing a finger at you. Like, here are your faults.
Right.
Here are your downsides. It's more like, I see a blind spot. and I'm sure my guess, no, three of you guys pretty well, is you either agree or disagree. And if you disagree, then there becomes a healthy discussion around it, right?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think, around our lives, I think we're all sort of craving honesty and authenticity, right? Because whether it's us, dancing around somebody at work or with our wives or whatever it is, and people doing the same with us because we're bosses, and so they're careful about how they speak to us. It's so refreshing, right? To have a relationship where you're just speaking openly and honestly. It's not being taken personally. In fact, I think sometimes it's like we crave it from each other. It's like, come on, man, I need somebody to tell me, honestly, hey, Matt, you need to step up here.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons people ask this all the time. Like, why do you guys only work with business owners or very high level C-suite people? It's because, and one of the things I say is, we can relate, but also, when you guys clock out, so to speak, at 5 o'clock, you're not clocked out, right? The business owner knows. It's at 3 a.m, you're up going, shoot, am I going to make payroll, or do I have to do this? Or if your phone's ringing, it doesn't end. And so you don't have somebody, to your point, Matt, that you can just, in your company, that you can just go to and say, I'm having this problem. This is what's going on for me. Because that's just not your role.
No. And I think, certainly in my company, we really encourage the open, honest discussions for sure. And we've been working really hard at that even very recently. And, I'll take it a step further. You're talking about like, okay, you check out on the weekends. It's, I may not be at work, but the wheels can be turning.
Sure.
But even a step further is like generationally, like for me now, having a daughter in the business, I've listened to a lot of guys here this week talk about their fathers or their sons in the business. It's like, man, this is family stuff. This is generational. It's decades. And so there is a different connection for sure for work. And of course, that's the kind of stuff that you can start bringing at home and, not showing up the way that you need to. And so, it's really good to have the guys around you. We have great coaches. It's a great program. And there's really the true power is in those relationships you create with other guys going through the same things as you.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say, I honestly think our coaching's world class, but it is not the reason people should join. It's the men. Mm-hmm. The men and the community is everything, right? The coaching is just like the add-on. It's just that special to be around you guys. For me, I know I speak for Tim and all the other coaches too. It's a blessing to sit back, especially when we get a chance. I like the smaller events, but even in the bigger events, we have 40 guys going out. Right. Any guy you interact with is going to be top notch. Totally. You're going to learn something about them. You can trust them off the bat. This is a man who's invested capital, money, but also more importantly, his time and energy, right? Yeah. Into bettering himself so he can better his family, right? Jerks don't do that. It's just the bottom line. Jerks don't do that. They wouldn't spend the time. They'd spend the time doing something totally different. And so every guy you run into, in my experience, is just a world-class guy.
And for me, it almost seems a bit like I'm asking the people that work for me to step up and be leaders and grow. And if I'm not doing that, I'm being a bit hypocritical there, right? Sure. So, and people, look up to me. And so, from a business side, this is a great avenue to find other men and I'm around a lot of great people, but to find these men that are going through some struggles on their own and work through them, and then also running businesses and these shared experiences. Like I can say, and I'm working to get better too. I got to be better for them, right? Yeah. I got to get better for me so I can get better for them, right? And to see that after a couple of years kind of trickle down is really, really, really cool.
Many obligations are unwanted.
Yes.
That's one that's desired, right? Like it's having that obligation to show up for our close friends and for each other. And it's great.
Yeah, you think about it, you said something like, other men that are going through, I can't remember the word you used, but hard times, for lack of better terms, or a crisis or whatever. But who isn't?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have seasons, right, of where you're smooth sailing, so to speak, but there's always something. And then most businessmen, in my experience, are always looking to sharpen the saw, right? They're always looking. You don't just coast, right? You didn't get into business as a true businessman or an entrepreneur just to get to a certain level and then just coast. People talk about that, running your business from the beach or the mountains, and you can do that. But I can promise you that those guys are also looking at other business ideas and everything else while they're there, or how to scale their business, or it's always the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt, I know you've been in the program 2.5 years,
Yep.
roughly.
Yep.
How long have you been in, Chris?
About the same. I started activation in 2.5 years ago in January.
Yeah. Okay. I thought it was about the same.
Yeah.
And you were saying something off camera about, something you were happy you joined at a certain specific time. And we were talking about when we see guys going through.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my wife and I had gotten to an awkward, headed to bad place, and I knew like something was off, right? And I could feel it. And we were actually starting having discussions about it, and I got the "I love you, but I'm not in love with you" conversation. Oh, that hurts, right?
Yeah.
And I still remember, and then it changed my whole mode because I kind of started hustling to get things right, and I didn't know where I was going, right? And through a series of events, there's no accidents, there's no coincidences. I saw your mug on a remarketing ad, right? And I was like, what the hell do I got to lose? Like,
If this guy can do it.
Yeah. and there's two parts why that's important. And we were in what would be a very level 2, very transactional relationship where I do this for you, you do this for me.
Yeah.
Even level 1, like we're just keep to our own, and almost like we weren't roommates. We were also business partners too. So there was a lot of crossover, and I didn't have the skills to navigate that. And today we're really in a lot of ways in a level 3 relationship where her needs are my needs and my needs are her needs. We think about each other first. And I think it was easier for us to get there because we started, our bottom was here and not down here.
Yeah.
And in my personal experiences, I've had, as you know, I'm 27 and a half years sober.
Yep.
And my bottom was pretty low there. So I've had several bottoms, and I don't want to start from there. I'd rather start from right here. So I guess my message is if you're sitting here wondering like, yeah, we're okay. Yeah, it's good. Like it'll be all right. It might, but it might not. And it's better to invest the time and get in while you're not starting at completely ground zero, because I was also seeing, if I look back, the habits where I was letting some things go in business because personal, I didn't feel grounded or no foundation. And I'd have probably had the business start to fall apart. One or two of the business start to fall apart because I wasn't paying attention because I couldn't focus on it because the thing that was most important to me was not right.
Yeah.
So
That's well said.
Yeah, I mean, that was with me when my wife, Erin, and I were going through our hard times. It just bled in because you can't stop thinking about that. And you go into the business, you try to focus, and your mind starts wandering on the problems. And of course, as a guy, I'm thinking, how can I fix it? And how's she going to fix herself? Because clearly she's the problem, not me.
Oh, you too.
Yeah. If she'll just do these things, then we'd all be great. Everybody else loves me. What the heck? What's her problem?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think, unfortunately, a lot of guys, we get thousands of calls a month of guys that are inquiring. They talk to our advisors and they leave it till it's too late, right? Guys will call up. And sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't, is my point, is they'll call up when the divorce papers have been handed in or she's already moved out, she's moved on. Not when, hey, things are average or below. Because look, none of us want average.
Right.
Nobody, hey, my marriage is average. Hey, no, you don't want average. Average feels good when it's been so crappy.
Yeah.
When it's been bad for so long, you get to average. I think a lot of guys exhale at that point rather than going, hey, I got one shot at this game I call life. That's what I always tell myself. I want great. How do I get to great? How do I want to really enjoy this?
Right.
And unfortunately, men wait too long.
Well, and Doug, I think we're talking about relationships right now, right? And wives and marriage. And it's, of course, we know that there's a lot of other stuff going on for men too, right? Personal stuff about themselves, right? About past relationships, about their health, all kinds of things going on for guys. And I think that reading those signs early, whether it's showing up in your marriage, but listen, we all have a past, right? And we're all trying to move forward, especially as you said, business owners, highly motivated, competitive. And I think just pausing and taking an evaluation kind of where you are, where you want to be, are you where you want to be?
Yep.
And are you being honest with that? Yeah, I think that's really the thing to do, and certainly the gift of desperation is a good gift for sure. It gets you here, but why wait?
Yeah, it's interesting. Is a guy I work with one-on-one. he was telling me, he was kind of, as it is, you get really close with everybody. I care, right? So it's not like I just, we don't talk anymore after the session or what have you, the coaching session. And he was telling me, he's like, you know what, you got a problem. I was like, oh, okay. Where's this going? And he's like, my business is never done better. You don't talk about business on your website at all. About how because I started fixing my marriage and all of a sudden my business started to get easier. I'm getting bigger contracts. I'm doing all of these things. And he's like, every guy I talk to, same thing. Right. And it's because we're business guys. And when you fix the part of the wheel that's broken, right? So the way I look at it, we do 5 territories, as you guys know, to start: self, health, wealth, relationships, and business. And if you look at those like spokes on a wagon wheel, if one of those isn't working well or broken, the whole wagon doesn't work well, right? The other spokes start to break. You hit a bump, or something else that happens in your life, a tragedy, the other things start to break down, and whatever area that is. And even self, the category of self, especially, for us guys, that was our first program. We had the activation method for self. It was nothing about relationships. It had some stuff in it, but that's what Arthur, Stu, Lee, all those guys that you know well, they came through on that program, which we're just re-releasing. And that one's all about self. It's like, hey, I'm just, the relationship's okay, but I'm just stuck. I'm stuck and I don't know what the next step is. Because I think all of us get stuck at times.
Yeah, and the hard thing too is when you get stuck and you're a motivated person, that's also a scary place because you start chasing and you start going down paths that might not be the right path for you. And so, having our coaches and our guys around to keep us, hey, but these are your values. This is where you said, is this not important to you, or is this, just to keep us in check and keep us, on our own tracks.
Yeah. It's like a pit crew for like the way I look at it, for a high performance sport car. Like that. It's like having your pit crew come out and help you out and make sure you're on the road and you're going as fast as you want to go for your own race. And one of the things I love about what we do is, and just the community, in the whole, we call it the movement, because it is a movement, is everybody's race is their own race and nobody's judging it, right? Nobody's judging the level you're playing at.
So true.
We were talking inside, we've had a billionaires come through. We've had people that just scraping by come through the program. Nobody's judging. It's like, what's the race you want to run? Cool. Let's get the pit crew around you for whatever that area is, and let's get you on the track.
Yeah. I think the things that you just talked about, the 5 pillars, it's like the great equalizer, right? It's like, yeah, we are all where we are. And I think, you were talking about the effect of the relationship, when it's healthy and it's going well. I don't know that any one pillar is more important than the other, but it sure seems like when you're good with your wife, right, and you feel supported by her, everything else sort of falls into line a bit easier.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that, you can be complacent and the rest of that, but it's amazing to me. I know for myself, when we're doing it together and we are feeling really great together, everything's possible.
Yes.
And I think one of the reasons that probably is, as I'm sitting here, saying it out loud, is that, of course, in order to be there with her, you've got to be doing all the right things, right?
Yep.
And paying attention to all the other things and showing up for her. And so anyway, I do think that, we certainly see this with the guys in our pack who have been around now for, 2+ years. I mean, when the relationships fall into place, right, with their wives, it just seems like everything takes off, and business really does.
Right. And the first thing too is the relationship with yourself, the self part of it. Cause like, as you're talking about it, but then you and your wife, it's because you're putting the time in on yourself. So you're honoring yourself, and you can feel that, and you're more confident, and they can see that, and they can feel that. And then it's just like a domino becomes like a snowball and an avalanche.
Well, and you get a little extra grace, right? If they know that you're working on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's a flywheel. It's
You
crazy.
bet.
But the flywheel goes both ways. And I think that's what men forget.
Yeah, it does go the other way.
Yeah. So
Hell
if you're not taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
you're not taking care of home base, your family, your wife, and what have you. We heard some things in here these last 3 days of guys that that didn't for a while, and I've been there too.
Sure.
Is that flywheel keeps spinning the opposite way, the way you don't want to go till it self-destructs.
Yeah.
Conversely, the flywheel can be all positive and get momentum where things are great. right? As long as you don't put a stick and stop that flywheel like in the middle, like a spoke or whatever, or put the brakes on, it can go faster and faster. And that's an amazing place to be.
Yes.
When things just start to click.
And it seemed like we heard this week too, right? That guys maybe don't know how far it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, they're really not paying attention. They're not seeing the signs. They're not showing up for their wives, and they don't really know how bad it is. You know, they know it doesn't feel great, but that seemed really evident this week. So in terms of the flywheel, like it's all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this is where we really were.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious. So you guys have both done an alpha reset yourselves. What was it like coming back to volunteer to be an alpha? Well, first of all,
oh my God.
Why, let's start again.
Yeah.
Why did you guys come back to volunteer for an alpha reset? Then what? And how was it?
you go, brother.
Man, so it was such a transformational experience for me. And it's been one of the things that's been on my list. Like if I can help these men, because you walk through the fire for sure, right?
Yeah.
And so if I could be there to support them, and I also knew that you know, how impactful it was for me, and that if I could carry that and they could see that, then it could really help them through it too. And that's my commitment. My commitment's always been, like I share with you about being sober, like, you know, I try to be open about my struggles, and because then it helps other people through their struggles, right?
Sure.
And I was right where they were. I can see bits of my story in just about every one of them. And so if I can be there just to hold space for them, and you know, when we get to a point where they can ask questions and what did I do, and share my story, because it might help them. And I really want to do that, because right now there's 10 better men in this world, and a small part in that.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. You save guys' lives. I mean, really let that sink in. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I saw that this week.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think for me, it's really similar to Chris, right? Like obviously it's a hugely transformational event, and, you know, it's sort of unimaginable. I think now the life that I lead now, you know, prior to my reset, and I think about the great guys that were there that supported us, Gabe and Tin Man and Lee. And,
Yeah.
you know, and I think as time has gone on, I just realized for myself, certainly, you know, I believe in servant leadership, right? Like, you know, get out there and do it, and lead by example. And I certainly wanted to be very much a part of what, you know, Chris described, which is, you know, seeing 10 guys go through this and come out the other side and be better men, right? Better for their families, for their business, for their community, all of that. And to be honest, a little selfishly, you know, I love it. I love the feeling of being around guys, seeing them go through and do the work and come out the other side. And so I know that my heart grows when I come to something like this, you know, and those guys walked in here and they needed love.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, I can do that.
And you did. I mean, you did. I mean, remember sitting around the table, right? The first night, and, you know, one person looking at me saying, I could give two shits about you. And another person telling me, you've never heard my, anything like what I'm going to, about my life story. I bet you $10. Right. I told him today, I go, who said that? He goes, oh, I did. I go, you owe me $10. Because then seeing these guys all get to the other side of that and rediscover the power within them, like their true strength that most of them didn't even know existed.
Totally.
Right? They didn't know the power that they have. And imagine those guys taking that back to their wives, to their children, to their businesses and their communities. Like that is something, that ripple effect that you mentioned is amazing. And again, I at least saved a number of lives, and that's not hyperbole.
No, it's not.
It's truly saved people's lives.
And that's just the men in that room, not, you know, the next circle and the next circle, the ripple effect and the stories. And after being, you know, through this and two years past my reset, and I think you and I had a conversation, like you can just see it, and then you just, you know, and I did this, right? You just hold on to these stories for dear life because it's like who you are and it's who you built yourself around. And it's not even true. And once you let it go, oh my God.
Liberating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you said, one guy gained like what, 6 inches in height.
Oh my
Or two of
God.
them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Changes the skin color.
True.
Yeah.
And everybody gets younger too.
Yes.
Except for you guys and us that are working and volunteering.
Our nap we took last night. I escaped a little earlier. I'm like, I'm just not going to go to dinner. I just can't eat. I won't eat tonight. Let's just call it a night.
Yeah.
Thank you guys, by the way, for doing that. And, you know,
Oh man.
you nurse the guys so they're able to come through.
Yeah.
Like I keep saying this. I know you get it, but without you guys, it just doesn't happen. That's just the reality of it. All 10 of those
Appreciate
guys.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's the love you put into it. At least one of you cooking, and you know, and
Chris
everything else.
sleeping.
Because
I did check out this one. I was tired. Wow.
I love the banter between the two of you. By the way, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, you can feel the love that you guys have for each other.
Oh yeah. I walked through a wall and then another one for this guy.
I know.
Yeah,
You don't even have to
absolutely.
say it. Yeah, it's just palpable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
What were some of, without giving anything away, what were some of the best experiences for you guys during these last 3 days? Without giving away specifics.
Sure.
One was able to reflect for me and to see, you know, you're going through it, right? And you're living life, right? And you're going and then you look back and the memory, like I got a message from the guys in my reset. There's no coincidences, right? And I get 10 minutes before these guys walk in the door. Chris Cameron sends a message out to our group. Hey guys, it was 2 years ago. We left Lake District and we headed off into the world, and this beautiful message. And it's 10 minutes before they walk in the door. And it was like perfect for me because I got to reflect back where I was. And so that was one of the really cool things for me. And just the gratitude for what you guys do. I could go on and on, just honored the respect for those men. I mean, they look in the mirror and they said, I don't like what I see, and I'm going to do something about it. That's hard. That's so hard. And so respect for those guys for doing that.
Correct. I think a lot of men look in the mirror and say, I'm going to change. The difference is these guys walked through the door.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's like the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. You know? The idea that you'll look at yourself, be knowledgeable enough to critique yourself is rare. Then to say you're going to do something, that's even rarer. But then actually to put action to words and come to something like this where nobody, I mean, there's no big secret. We don't tell anybody what happens at the event. We've been doing it for almost 8 years now.
Right.
And, you know, and the guys still show up. And it's the sacred nature of what happens here. And maybe sacred's not the right word, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And the other men just pass it forward by, hey, we're just not going to say anything.
It's amazing that it never got, I mean.
No, it is pretty incredible. But, you know, but also I think that there's a leap of faith.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's really integral to the whole thing, right? Is that at a certain point, you don't know what you're going to do and you don't know what you're showing up for. You know, everybody walks through that door like, so what's going to happen, you know? But even taking a step back, you know, just, you know, joining the movement, you know, and you know, actually taking action to get help, that leap of faith, you know. And I think for us as men, we're in our heads so often and trying to solve problems. And, you know, my least favorite thing in the world, I'll figure it out. You know, it's like, okay, good luck with that. How's that working for you? But you know, that like at some point it's just a leap of faith. I am tired of this.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's incredible. Every once in a while I get to, you know, I jump on a call with somebody who's like inquiring just to hear what's going on. And without demeaning it, because I would have been this guy, it's almost laughable where a guy's like, you know, my wife's going to divorce me. You know, I think she's having an emotional affair. And we talk, okay, here's the program. Here's what we're doing. You know, we've helped guys like you. We've got hundreds of testimonials. I just don't know if I have the time. You're like, dude, are you kidding me? Right? You're about to lose, I don't know. It's X dollars. I don't know. You're like, you're about to.
How expensive is a divorce?
Yeah,
right?
the lawyers alone, let alone, and the emotional toll, the finances. You're going to lose half of everything, right? But that's the financial part. Set that aside. the emotional toll, because we all see guys go through it, unfortunately, and it's never pleasant, never pleasant. And every guy, even the guys that have the most, is the word I'm looking for, acrimonious divorce and separation, still say, I wouldn't wish this on my enemy. Yeah. Right? It's just not what they want to go through. And they're great guys, and sometimes the women are great, sometimes they're not. There's circumstances. But either way, there's something with the psychology of people, maybe it's men in particular, that can't rationalize something. It's like, hey, I don't want to invest the time. You're like, dude, how are you in business, right? Either of you guys, right? If you didn't know something that you needed to know to grow your business, a new POS system, a software, whatever else it is, would you just be like, nah, I'm just not going to learn it? You'd hire experts, or you figure it out, right? You learn it. You learn it because it's integral. And no one would look down on you because you said, hey, I'm taking a course on spreadsheets or Excel or what have you. They go, that's really smart. You guys invested in himself.
Yeah.
Well, I sort of feel too, though, like, right. So in particular, we're talking about marriage and we're talking about business owners. It's sort of the plight of the small business owner, though, is that they're afflicted by this whole, like, I got to figure it out. I got to do all things. And, when the answer really is, no, you don't have to figure it out.
Yes.
Right. Go find an expert. Go find somebody that can teach you the things that you don't know. You can get there quicker, get there a lot less painfully. Right. Whether it's about your marriage, whether it's about your business, it's like, but I look around me and I see all these small business owners, and they are just buried in the details and the weeds, and they just can't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
Any more cliches you want me to but truly, like I see that all the time with business owners. It's like their whole life is wrapped up and built around this business, and they've got to do all things. And it's like, you know what? Actually, if you stopped doing that, everything else would come into focus for you.
Yeah. You gotta let go of control. I learned that in my early 20s. Luckily, I owned a couple businesses in my early 20s, and I had guys like you guys at your stage now who kind of took me under their wing. And I was at least smart enough to know that I would try to go to coffee with them or breakfast with them every week, and just, and they took me in like a little brother, if you will, a little kid almost. And one of the things that I learned from them is just, the difference between being a business owner and a business operator. If you're an operator, you're in the day-to-day, and it's hard to get out. We're talking about the flywheel again, right? Yep. You're just running around chasing your tail over and over again. As soon as you start to get out, someone doesn't show up for their shift or their work or job, or bills come in that you didn't expect, or whatever it is. Something happens. And you
professional firefighter.
You are a professional firefighter.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to get burnt in order to get out of that role. You have to get burnt. You have to step aside. Maybe a couple things fall through the cracks, in order to give yourself the time to look over the business, and then start developing the system, start developing the processes that you're going to run your businesses, start hiring the experts, putting away money if you need to. I mean, guys listen to this are at different stages, right? Just if you have to squirrel away $20 at a time, do it so you have the foresight of getting out of that place where you can bring somebody in to help you with your business, so you can actually go be with your wife, go be with your kids. Because most men, when you ask them, like, well, so why are you doing this? There's a gentleman here today was worth quite a bit of money. He shared with me what he was doing. And I mean, a lot. And he was saying, hey, look, I'd give it all away in a second just to have my family. Right. And that's what a lot of us do it for. Like, hey, let's make some extra money. Let's start another business. Why? So I could buy the lake house. Why do you want the lake house? Well, so I can spend time with my family. Right. Yeah. It's the story.
Yeah, a brief story here. The guy that I know well, he's in my circles around in my industry locally, and he had lost his first wife, unfortunately, to cancer, and he ended up remarrying, and after a couple of years of being remarried, things weren't going well, and and it was weighing on him, and he called me and he wanted to know if I wanted to buy his business, and I didn't, but it was an opportunity to have a deeper conversation, So I started probing a little bit. I was asking him about what his role is there, what, who else helps out in leadership positions. And then as we got there, I said, well, what are you paying the guy who's, kind of your right-hand man, And by the way, you should just let your right-hand man, hire a right-hand man that actually just runs the business for you, right? Yeah. And he told me, and it was, absurdly low. And I knew his finances. I said, why don't you just give that guy 50 grand more? He's like, well, that seems like an awful lot of money. And I was like, well, do do you want to lose another wife? Right. Which was a deep place to go. And his first wife was a lovely woman and he'd lost her. But it was like, man, what is it going to take?
Yeah.
You're going to go through, you're going to go through losing your second wife over, like let go.
Yeah.
The good news about this, that was a couple of years ago. I just heard that he brought on a partner and he's stepping out. He won't be in the daily business. Like, thank God, right?
Yeah.
He's going to go live with his wife and be with his wife.
It's hard to let go of control though sometimes. I mean, it really is. At least I struggle with it still at times. I go through the whole idea that, when I see it, I just want to get it done. And sometimes like, I'll just do it.
Sure.
Right. And I think a lot of guys go through that stage of I'll just do it, which gets hard then to I gotta go look for the person. The stories start coming in, right? I see you guys grinning a little bit.
Yeah. Too hard to train people. It's too hard to do this. People don't want to work, blah, blah, blah.
Oh man.
That's like, if that's what you're looking for, that's what you're going to find.
Yeah.
Because you're the guy, you know all the answers. So you're going to tell yourself these stories and you're only going to see what proves them true.
Yep.
And that's where it goes down to fear and ego. Right. And if you can just, you talked about at one point, some of it's so easy. You just want to shake somebody, but they got to figure it out themselves. But at the core of it is just fear and ego. And if everybody looks at you as the one, you're up here, you're on this pedestal.
You're significant.
You're significant and you believe that. How can you admit to everybody, or I can't be struggling. I'm not allowed to struggle. No, this can't be happening. And you just got to let go and go, yeah, like I'm struggling, but I can figure it out and other people can help me figure it out, and it's just letting go of that.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree 100%. That's in every area, not just business, right?
Yeah. I was even thinking about actually business when I started going. I was like, I went to a different wavelength there. Yeah.
Hey, you want to get healthy? Hire a nutritionist.
Yeah.
Hire a personal trainer, right?
Exactly.
You name it.
Yep. Any area.
What would make it? I hear Tim Matthews' voice in my head like 3 or 4 times a week. What would make this easy?
Yeah.
It's just like
You stole that from me,
constantly.
by the way.
Oh, you got that from you?
You got that from you?
Yeah.
Well, Mark Smith's been
Yeah,
stealing that.
Mark.
In case you're listening, Mark.
Yeah. Mark probably stole it from Tim. I stole it from somebody else, I'm sure, but I want credit.
Well, I stole it from you guys too. I use it around the house all the time.
But Tim's accent, no offense, Doug, but it's much more fun to hear.
It
in my head,
is.
Can you give us like a little impersonation here? Real quick?
I can. I'm horrible at accents. I've tried so many times, but I've gone as far as copying Tim's voice. If Tim listens to this, he'll know. And using AI. Now I've got some scripts. So I'm going to start, putting out messages with Tim's voice on there.
Wow.
They're probably not going to be the ones that Tim wants to hear. That, Tim. I love Tim. Tim's like my brother, as you guys know.
Absolutely.
So we have a lot of fun.
And he's got a great voice.
He does have a great voice. Yeah, and he's an amazing coach.
Face for radio.
That's the only clip we're going to cut out of this. So I'm curious for you guys, both of you, if somebody's listening to this right now and they're thinking, man, things aren't working out right now. Things aren't working well.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give them?
Don't wait. You're right here. It's right in front of you. And if it's not this, that's fine. It's something else.
Yeah.
Because, for me, unfortunately not in this case, I would get stuck on making sure it was the thing. Just go, because as soon as you move, if it's not the thing, but you're earnestly going in that direction, you'll find the thing.
100%.
And if you're thinking about this, the best thing a man can do is be honest with himself. So just be really honest with yourself. You don't even have to tell anybody. You can just sit there and be honest with yourself. And if you can be honest with yourself and it's not going where you want it to go and you don't see it, then take the step forward, and just make that phone call, reach out. And in my experience, it always gets better from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think extreme accountability and right. Take action, make a leadership decision, do something. That really resonated for me this week, like just watching the guys and the guys who, had that sense when they first came in here of life's happening to me.
Yes.
Right. And they're just sitting there passively in the corner, taking the hits. And it's like, man, when are you going to hit back?
Yeah.
Right. This is the fierce that we were talking about earlier. Get fierce, make a decision, lead your family to the next level.
Yeah.
Do it.
My wife's in, so we're out in the studio right now, which is detached from the main place where we do the Alpha Reset. And my wife is now giving a woman's point of view to these 10 guys. And one of the things that she tells me so often, and we hear this also, and you guys know the answer here, is the top complaints women have is that their man isn't being decisive.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Where do you want to go to dinner? I don't know. Wherever. Where do you want to go? I don't know. I don't care. And guys think they're being nice. Like, oh, I'm doing the right thing because I really don't care. And that's the biggest turnoff, because then she has to get into her masculine.
Right.
All right. Now she's got to do it, which means either you have two choices here. Either you become the beta or you rise up against her, and now you have two masculines clashing, right?
Yeah.
And we all know who that goes.
Yeah.
You get two masculine people coming, there's going to be a fight, or someone's got to back down.
Well, and there's a bunch of guys sitting here listening to this right now. I was like, but I just don't give a shit about the color of the curtains, or I just don't care about the doilies at the wedding, or right. That's not the point.
No.
Right. I mean, the amount of, just be definitive. Doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, like make a decision, right? Your wife can have the power of saying, well, okay, I like that. Well, I feel a little differently. You can work that out.
Yeah.
But oh, what do you want, dear? Whatever the boss says. Oh,
yeah.
It's like just the worst. It's like, no, like that's not what she's looking for from you.
No.
And in fact, go a step further and actually suggest things. Don't make her come to you, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
I was telling a buddy one time, and I would only say this to friends, of course, this way. Well, you guys know me well enough that I would probably say this to somebody else. But my friend was going through a hard time. He was like, I give her everything. I go, dude, if she wanted someone that would just come running to her every time, she would have got a friggin' dog.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Dogs are great. They're loyal. Yep. They're fun. They're companions. They don't talk. They're always excited to see you. Like, you're being a dog to her. Like, she's telling you what to do. It's not what she wants. And as soon as he started being more of himself, being more authoritative, he got more of a backbone in him. And that's the guy I used to know right before he became like the super nice guy and sedated. He started doing the things that we teach in The Powerful Man, the ARS, and started like speaking up for himself, not being rude, but just standing up for himself.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, this horrible woman he was married to became the sweet woman that he married, right? You get that and that was the difference. And all he had to do was find himself again and politely stand up for himself. I say politely because some guys hear the message and I think that gives them a license to be a dick. And that's not what we're saying at all.
No.
And they also too, they're wiser than we give them credit. They just want us to be happy, right? And if we're doing some things for ourselves to make ourselves happy, then we bring that back. I didn't understand that until I got in here. Like, I always felt like I'm like, no, I'm not going to go over to my buddy to Ray's house and have a gar. No, I'm not going to go play golf because I felt like what I was supposed to do was particularly when I felt like we were struggling, I needed to be here, right? And what I needed was to go do things that made me happy because I would bring that home, and they feel that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and they're telling us, I was in my head like, oh, she's trying to get rid of me, doesn't want me here right now anyway. No, they just want me to go do your thing, right? Because that's what guys need to do, But be respectful about it and be considerate. But at the same time, you got to do your stuff.
Could be a combo, by the way. Just so you know, she could want you out of the house too.
Yeah, they do. They need their space too, and they definitely, and they need to have it.
Yep,
need to give it to them.
100%. I mean, I always get asked, how's your wife? You have 2 young kids. How does she let you do these events and go away from home and what have you? And we were talking about this earlier. I can't remember which one of you said. I think it was you, Matt. Mm-hmm. But my wife, I come back a better husband, a better father, a better human every time I get to these events and I surround myself with other men that are working on themselves.
Right.
Because you can't help. Andy and I, all the coaches, the reason we do the TAR, 1, we love them, but 2, we're going through them just like you guys experienced. Right. When a guy's telling a story, you're going, oh my gosh, I'm doing that again, my life or what have you, whatever it is, you're finding
that's a good gut check.
It's a great gut check, and you're saying, okay, where am I doing that in my life? Oh gosh, I get to tweak that a little bit, a little 1 degree here, 1 degree there. Mm-hmm. And so, my wife loves it when I come to these events because I come home just so much more fulfilled.
Yeah. My wife is super supportive of a TPM in general, but going to the events, absolutely. Doug, you were saying something earlier, that made me think about, we heard it here a couple times this week. And so I'm thinking about the guys who might be listening to this or trying to figure out what to do next, happened in my reset too. And I hear it, in our groups is this idea. I give her everything she wants, right? I've given you everything. And it's like, well, you clearly aren't.
Yeah.
Right. So tune in because you're not listening. Right. And they'll go down the list, you can go anywhere you want. I bought you a new car. You have the most beautiful house, and it's like, man, she's telling you, right? Either with her words or with her actions, that's not what she wants from you.
Yeah.
And I know, my wife told me many, many times for years, you're not giving me what I need, and I remember thinking, okay, well, I want to, right? So I'm just going to double down and work harder and hustle even more.
Yep.
And I think what we learned this week, or at least was reinforced, was this idea: it's not a head problem, it's a heart problem, right?
Right.
Open your heart and really see her, listen to her, learn what her needs really are.
Yeah.
And you got to open up yourself for that.
Yeah, Matt, I think a lot of guys build up so much resentment that their teenager comes out, right? Well,
Yeah.
And you're talking about transactional relationships. Yeah. Chris is pointing to himself. It's easy to go into that transactional relationship. Well, Matt, I'll give her what she wants once she does this. Once I get blowjobs, then I'll start being nice. Or once I get sex, or whatever. Every guy, I've heard every story under the sun, right?
I bet you have.
And they get to be transactional, and it's just like a business deal. And who wants to be married to a business deal, right? Like,
and it all starts with that. Before the resentment is that expectation, right? And you haven't, the two of you hadn't had an agreement on that expectation either, right? So that's a covert contract, right? That's an agreement, and that's a one-way agreement, right?
Yeah.
And then you let those expectations that you haven't expressed, they're not met, and then you build that resentment.
Yes.
And it just burns you up. I know it all too well. And so that's where, and then one resentment builds on top of another resentment. And your analogy is fantastic. A relationship is a pane of glass, right? And there's mud on that. And those resentments, every time you get one, you're throwing mud on glass. And mud's getting thrown from both sides because you're thinking you're the only one with resentments. Oh boy, when you start like asking, wow, they come out And so, and it's good. So those that communication and understanding how to communicate expectations and needs. So you don't build those resentments, because the resentments are the beginning. They think they're bad, but then resentments lead to contempt. And once you have contempt for something, it's a long way. A lot of times they say you can't get back from contempt.
Yeah.
So, it's a very slippery slope.
Yeah. I think you can get back. I think it's just very,
that's the low bottom, right?
Yes. Yeah. You got a lot of rewrite the script.
Yeah.
You got to prove yourself a lot more for one is your own psyche, right?
Yeah.
And then two, that contempt, man, probably goes both ways at this point. Or she's felt it so much she feels abused, you know? And I hear that all the time from women. And back to what you were saying, Matt, you guys say like, I give her everything except for what she needs.
Yeah. I was in a conversation with somebody, it might've been Gavin the other day. We were talking about what happens is that both parties are so focused on not getting their needs met, right? That it becomes this power struggle over who's going to get their needs met. And I hear so many guys talk about why does it have to be me? Why do I have to meet her needs in order to get my needs met? I'm like, man, don't drive yourself crazy trying to figure that one out, right? Just lead, right? She's not going to lead you out of that. And I think that it's really important, to kind of, drop the sword, right? Step back and work on that part of meeting her needs, showing up for her, right? And eventually, then you will get out of that struggle of my needs aren't getting met. Put her first.
I think you do, and just because it's love, right?
Yeah,
you're meeting her needs. That's the transaction again, right?
That's right.
So guys go,
not hustling.
Yeah,
don't hustle.
Well, yeah, but I think a lot of guys would say, well, why should I have to be the first one to meet her needs if she doesn't meet mine?
Right.
But really what he's saying is well, if she does this, then I'll do that.
That's right.
You're back in a transactional relationship, and that's shitty, right? And most relationships, you go around to a barbecue or anything, and couples, almost all of them are in the transactional stage at best.
Particularly after, a dozen or more years and a couple kids and
work stress, your soccer practices and all that, you throw it in there. It's tough. But you get around a couple that's not you can tell.
Yeah.
It's palpable,
Yeah.
right? And the more that my experience, my personal experience, is the more for my wife, Erin, the more I would do it just out of pure love. If she didn't reciprocate, it didn't matter because I was doing it because I chose to do it for her.
That's right.
And then magically, guess what happens, guys? All of a sudden, she's going out of her way to meet my needs. And then we become competitive on who can help the other person and lift the other person up. And that's when it gets magical in marriage, for me at least. That's a great place to be.
Yeah, one of the guys, that's a great point. One of the guys was asking about, we were just talking about it's not the big things, it's the little things, right? One of the things I like to do is always, acts of service and gifts are a love language for my wife. And so, I love to get like a coffee and leave it for her. And he goes, oh, I do that. He says, then I ask her and she doesn't say anything. And I'm like, time out.
Yeah.
Right. You doing it for her, you're doing it for you, right? Yeah. I said, I'll get a coffee for my wife and I'll leave it from the counter or bring her a drink home from the club. And I'm just doing that because I love her and I want her to have something. And if she says something great and if she doesn't, enjoy it. And it is what it is, right? Yes. And that's where it's not as transactional. I just know she's going to see that and go, oh yeah, this is great. You don't need to tell me. Like, it's just for her.
He gets me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he just does a random act, right? It could be anything. He'll leave our coffee mug outside we do it all at my house a lot.
Yeah.
And we heard it here. It was a great guy. And he had at least a self-recognition. So how can I say this? I'm just going to skip that part because it'll give away too much. Okay. But he found out basically that, he was giving gifts to his wife and his wife knew that the gifts he was giving were just because, just to get something.
Yeah.
So much to the point where he'd give it to her now, leave me alone, as he said, and walked away. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
I got a brief story about, my wife and I was like, all right, I'm going to get her to the love languages, take the quiz. Right. So newsflash, man, personal touch, right? Every guy in the world gets the same result on that. And my wife's was quality time. So I was like, man, I am going to be the best quality time dude ever. So after about a month, I was like, so, how's it going? Like, what, can you give me any feedback? And she's like, yeah, you're checking the box, dude. She's like, you come in, you say all of the right stuff, you ask the right questions, you sit there, you nod your head, and she said, but I want to know about you. This isn't just about me. This is about us together and we're communicating and you're opening up. Yeah. Right. So, that was great feedback, and I was grateful, that she said that, that we were in a place where she could do that. It's, again, thinking about the transactional part of it, we're just like the problem solving, work solution, like, okay, I'm going to figure this out and get it all, worked out. My wife's going to think I'm just the greatest guy ever, but yeah, it was really great feedback.
Well, kudos to you, right? You didn't go into deer mode, which I always say this because I know you guys know this, but deer is defend, excuse, explain, react. Mm-hmm. I could see how a lot of guys with your wife say, oh, you didn't check the box, good job. And then I see a guy just blowing up, right? Totally. What do you mean? I've been working so hard. What have you been doing? Yeah. And then that builds the resentment. And it gives also, and guys need to understand this, it gives their woman like yeah, I knew that this was fake, right? And you're just faking it. This is not what you're really about. Where you stood the storm and said,
sure,
you just changed the paradigm. This is great feedback. She's giving me the roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'll take that. And this is something I can work with.
Right.
And it's really not that subtle usually with women, right? I mean, they kind of, they're giving you pretty direct signals all the time.
Yeah.
Right. You just got to, open your ears and open your eyes and pause and listen and
pay attention.
Yeah.
Well, not react. I mean, I think most of us reacting is the biggest one. Then we defend, excuse, and explain. But it's that reacting, we get triggered, and then it, unless you catch yourself and know how to do it really well, it all goes to hell quickly.
Yeah.
Well, at least as for me, I'll speak for myself going through there. Any parting words of wisdom or advice that you'd like to leave here?
You go first this time. I'm gonna throw you under the bus now.
I feel like a double statement, like yours. Well, I mean, I think we said it pretty well earlier in the sense that it's like, take action, lead, I think probably, well, not probably, right? It's, the best thing you can do is take action. you know, if you're struggling, whether it's, you know, with personal stuff, and certainly no one's going to fix that for you.
Yeah.
And as loving as our wives are, and all the rest of it, I mean, they're looking for that from us. And I think, you know, taking that step, taking that leap of faith, taking some action, do it now. Why wait?
Do it now.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what I would say on top of that too is what do you got to lose?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to, like you say, the rocking chair test. You don't want to be sitting back, you know, 80 years old. Well, man, if I'd have just,
Well,
if you'd have just what? Right?
Yeah.
Like, just do it. You're not, and the other thing too is as hard as it is to look at yourself and work on those things, when you go through that, the confidence that it gives you for the next thing and the next thing, the flywheel that you talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you build yourself up. Obviously with great men around you and community and help. But yeah, I mean, what are you waiting for? Let's just do it.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that real quick because I think it's great, Chris. And, you know, whenever I've asked it, I don't know how many times I've asked this question to a man. I was like, hey, look, you're in your later years. You're sitting on the porch, rocking chair, got a bourbon, you got a lemonade, whatever it is. You're sitting there sipping and you're reflecting on your life. What are you happiest about? Like, what's the most important to you? And I've only had one guy talk about his business. Everybody else talked about their kids and their spouse. And that's it. So if your kids and your spouse, if your relationships, the people you love are the most important, then where are they on your calendar? Where are they on your true priority list? Right? And I always kind of say, and I took this from somebody else too, is show me your bank account and I'll show you your priorities. Show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities. So those two things, usually when I do one-on-one coaching, the two things I ask a guy for right away. Like, they give me their goals. I'm like, cool, pull up your calendar. Let's look at it. Where's your wife? You say you're married. Your kids are important. Where's the practices, the games? Well, I don't see them in your calendar. All right, let's look at your bank account, which is a weird one, right? But I'm like, pull it up. Let's look at where you're voting with your dollars. Where are you voting with your money? I asked where you're really, because I'm asking is where you say you want this, but your vote on time. Let's see what you're voting, where you're putting your time. You say you want this. Let's see where you're voting with your money. And they're very rarely are they, are they actually showcasing what men truly say they want. And it should be a reflection, right? I have date night on my calendar. I have my kids on my calendar. I have family time on my calendar, right? And that's what you want to have. And so to your point, you got to do it.
Yeah. And the things that hold you back that you think are important, they're not important at all. What will people say? They're sitting in the cheap seats too right now. It doesn't matter what they say. It's about you. Just go do it.
Get on the field.
Yeah, get on the field.
I love it, guys. Thank you so much for being here, man. It's been great spending time with you guys, of course. Right? It's been excellent. It's been fun. And just the love and care you gave to these 10 guys and everybody in the movement is just absolutely amazing. You guys are amazing men. So thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
And thank you, Doug, and for you guys and what you do. It's amazing stuff. It really is.
You got it, brother. Gentlemen, as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. As you can see, these two amazing guys here, they're the epitome of what a powerful man is. Or we use the wolf: wise, open, loving, and fierce. We never say it's about perfection. None of us are perfect. We all have our flaws. It's about being on the journey and being willing to look at yourself, to take action, whatever that action is to you, imperfect action, whatever, but don't be stagnant. Don't stand on the fence. Go somewhere. Doesn't have to be working with the Powerful Man or TPM. Go somewhere else, whatever works best for you. But whatever you do, something. Don't go from podcast to podcast or YouTube video to YouTube video. I call that educational masturbation. I used to do it a lot. What I want you to do is just stop, write down the insights you got, the wisdom that these two amazing men have shared with you guys. Write that down, and take action on it. What's your next action step? The smallest thing you can do immediately is better than waiting for a large jump. Just the smallest micro thing. Schedule that call. Call the person you care about. Look at your calendar. Pull your calendar out and tell me, if I looked at it, what would Doug say? What would I say your priorities really are if I looked at your calendar? And do it. Actually do it. Pull up your bank statement. If I look through your bank statement for the last 30 days, what would I say your priorities are? And this will give you some insight and some leverage over yourself that you can actually move forward. As always, guys, we're in your corner. We'll see you next time on the TPM Show.